In today's video, I'm going to show you how I grew a ranunculus from corm to flowers. This flower is often referred to as the rose of spring or Persian buttercup. The first time I saw these flowers, it was on 55 acres of land. Fields and fields of flowers just outside San Diego. I never knew how to grow them in your own garden, and once I tried it, I absolutely fell in love with them. These grow from corms that look like tiny octopuses and need to be soaked about 3 to 4 hours in room temperature water before planting.
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars. Maybe the birds will sing about your heart.
After soaking, these corms will plump up and double in size. At this stage, if the weather outside has warmed up for you, you can plant them directly in the ground, or even if you're overwintering them in fall. But if you live in zone 6 or below, you will need to pre-sprout these about 4 weeks before your last frost date. In my zone of 10A, I could have planted them in fall, but last year I didn't get a chance to plant them outside. So I also decided to pre-sprout them so I can get an early harvest. And you can do this too. If you want an earlier harvest, you can pre-sprout them even earlier and have them blooming in your home or even your garden. The weather here in California has drastically changed this year in winter and spring, and I didn't want to take a chance by planting them outside in soggy waters. I am having a lot of issues with my current plants, especially my roses right now, because of the soggy, wet conditions that we are experiencing here in California. So I didn't want to directly plant them outside and decided to pre-sprout them in the house itself. And you might ask, why pre-sprout your ranunculus? Pre-sprouting your corms will help you get the ranunculus to bloom a few weeks earlier. And who doesn't want earlier spring flowers, especially coming out of the dreary winters? If you want to pre-sprout the corms, this is how I've done it. I filled half of a flat-bottom seed tray with moist potting soil. I've sprinkled the corms on top of the soil upside down so that the tentacles face downwards. And then covered them with more soil so that all the corms are completely covered in soil. I left this tray in a cooler place in my studio for about 10 to 14 days. You can leave them in your garage or any part of your house that will be about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 to 10 degrees Celsius. I checked on them every couple of days, made sure they had some water in them and they were not too soggy. And if I found that any of the corms were rotting or were not looking as good, I discarded them. I want to warn you though, some of my corms sprouted a little later than the others. The only reason why I kept them because I didn't see any signs of mold or rot. But if I would have thrown them out earlier, I would not have seen that they actually sprouted about 14 days later. So sometimes you might also find that some corms sprout later than the others, and so be a little patient with them. Just check whether or not they have mold or rot, or otherwise you can just leave them. Now during this time, the corms doubled in size and also developed these tiny white rootlets that almost look like hair all over the corms. Once you see these rootlets appear, it is time to plant them in the ground. Even though I saw these rootlets come out, I was hesitant in planting them outside in my beds because we were getting a lot of cold weather during that time. And I'm so glad I didn't end up planting them because we got 2 hailstorms after this period. So I kept them inside and let them grow in the seed tray itself. I transferred some to a container so I could grow them indoors and left the rest of them in the seed tray until the weather could get a little warmer outside. I prepared my growing beds or containers by adding compost compost and a balanced fertilizer to the soil. You can plant the corms about 9 inches or 23 centimeters apart and at a depth of 2 to 3 inches. Make sure that the tentacles are facing down. If you plant the corms in late fall, they will end up blooming in late winter or early spring. And if you plant them in early spring, they should bloom by mid-spring. I had also bought some transplants from my local nursery, and even though I am pre-sprouting these corms for blooms in mid or late spring, I wanted blooms in early spring. So I think of it like succession growing my ranunculi so that I have a longer season of blooms. Because I missed out on the window in my fall period, I started with transplants, so I have blooms in early spring, and I will also have blooms in mid and late spring going up into summer. This allows you to have a longer season of blooms and helps you extend the amount of time you will be able to enjoy these beautiful flowers in your garden. Ranunculus are an amazing flower to add for your cutting garden because their blooms last for about 10 to 12 days, especially if you cut them in a soft marshmallowy stage when they're just opening up. They will last for about 10 to 12 days in your vases. Amazing flower to have in your garden. I hope this helps you plant some ranunculi in your own garden. And if you're looking to plant some zinnias in your garden, this is my guide on growing zinnias from seed to flowers.